right now, the price of freight has reduced. So from its peak, which was probably somewhere around August of last year, September of last year, where a 40-foot full container load, like basically a 40-foot container, was $30,000 to send that from Guangzhou or Shenzhen in China to, LA, something like that, over in the USA. Okay, that's where most trade happens. That was $30,000 for that. It isn't as much as that anymore. It's now hovering around 18, 20, depending on the week. So there's been a 30% reduction from its high, which sounds great until you realize that 18 months before that, you could send the same thing halfway around the world for 2,500 to 4,000. So, it was very, very cheap relative to where it is now. So yes, it's come down in price, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still freaking expensive. It's still a lot of money, 18, 20,000. So customs clearance resumes. Well, they've opened up the clearance at some of the ports in China. Great. Okay, well, that's an interesting thing for us to notice. But Shanghai, as you probably have heard, that's thanks to Xi Jinping's zero COVID policy with regards to COVID, that's gone back into a lockdown, has been in a lockdown for some time now. There's these great videos doing the rounds of people being literally barred into their houses in Shanghai, not being able to leave by COVID police, for want of a better way of putting it. So Shanghai's in lockdown. What does that mean for us? Well, it means the port of Shanghai, which is a very, very busy port, is also closed. Okay. So what happens as a result of that is that other ports, freight is rerouted to other ports. Typically in China, that's going to be Guangzhou is the other port, which is China's other very, very busy port. So it increases the load on Chinese ports, which therefore increases the amount of time that stuff is either waiting to get loaded or waiting to get unloaded. Typically for us, that's all about waiting to get loaded onto it because that's what we're interested in. But the things get sent around the world in these big metal boxes. And if there's not enough of them to go around because they're not being unloaded, that has a big impact as well. China has been scrambling to put in place other things. One of the things like they have done is they now trying to send freight via train, which is interesting in and of itself, that they would try to do that. There's probably a lot of arguments to be made that America will also try and develop, and possibly Australia as well, try and develop their own rail infrastructure to move goods around America. Diesel prices are going up, but that's a different conversation to be had. So that's one of the things that China's doing. They're trying to now move freight around China and out of China as well on freight trains. Okay. To that end, one of the things they've done is they've opened up the border between a place called Dong Dong in Vietnam and also with China. So that border has now been reopened and they put a lot of work into getting that done. And what they're looking to do is to send stuff very, very loosely. They're looking to send stuff from China through this rail link into Vietnam and then try and get it the hell out of Vietnam and then to go around the world, okay? Which geopolitically is interesting. Vietnam and China working very, very closely together with that sort of thing. All sorts of interesting things come out of that. So what are the silver linings with this sort of thing? Well, a lot of production, a lot of companies who rely on China for production have scrambled and have now moved their production into other countries. India has been the predominant winner of that shift. So again, geopolitically, it's interesting because India and China have got their absolute differences. But still, India is the big winner as far as what's happened in China. India is the big winner, with Apple moving a significant amount of their production into India as well. One thing that's as a result of that is that the shipping times to get things out of India relative to China is a huge difference. So to get things out of China is taking 15, 20 days to even, so when you order something from a factory, you've got to get it from the factory to the port in Guangzhou, for instance, not Shenzhen now. And then you've got to get it put onto a ship. And that process normally is pretty quick, but currently that's taking like 20 days. So that's insane. But in India, it's very normal, as much as it's taking 2 to 3 days. Okay, so another big reason why you ought to be looking outside of China to source your products from.